So please welcome Kelsey Warden and Caitlin Engelking to the stage. Thank you.
So now you know the game.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Perfect.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. I'll briefly introduce ourselves again, just so we can level set on who we are and our responsibilities. So I'm Kelsey Warden. I'm the Associate Director of Marketing at MD Anderson. I oversee all of our market research and marketing analytics. And Caitlin here is the program lead for all of our marketing analytics initiatives. So we are going, there we are. We're going to talk to you guys about how we are viewing about building a balanced CDP and using the right data sources and insights from the get, and not kind of backtracking on what some of that means. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of all of that, I want to level set on our brand. Not everyone knows who we are and what we do, but I want to show what we have working for us and what we have working against us to get us here today. So MD Anderson Cancer Center, we're the world's largest cancer hospital. We were established by the Texas state legislature in 1941, and we have 25,000 employees, almost 26 now. We have been ranked the US News and World Report's best cancer hospital 10 years in a row, and we have treated over 2 million people with cancer care since 1944. We are also home to the world's largest cancer clinical trials program, and we boast one of the most esteemed faculties, including a Nobel laureate, Jim Allison, who invented immunotherapy. So we're working with some really smart people here, and we have to come to the table with some good knowledge. And then our mission of MD Anderson, I don't need to read this whole thing to you, but the gist is our goal is to end cancer. We're doing that in Texas, the nation, the world, and we want to do that by integrating patient care, research, prevention, and education. So bubbling all of that up, why did MD Anderson need a CDP? Well, to us, it's pretty straightforward, right? We want to help our patients and our caregivers where they are on their journeys with cancer. And in order for us to do that, we need to know where they are in that journey. Given our size and scale, we have a ton of disparate data sources and different data set owners across our institution who we need to bring it all together and streamline that so we can understand where people are. So when we set out to get a CDP and we were tying this to our mission and the goal of our CDP, it was really straightforward, right? Like, we have a huge impact on people's livelihoods, and so keeping the patients and at the forefront and the center of that was an easy way to proceed. But when you look at this, our goal of the CDP was to create a single customer view, right? And our customers, that is obviously patients and caregivers, but could also be students, trainees, other professionals and employees, and the general public too. And we want to unify and activate on that data, and that data could be patient data, research data, prevention data, and education. So that all seems like a really, really easy way for a slam dunk to get the green light to go with a CDP, right? Well, not so fast. It actually took us about 2 years of educating across our entire institution to make sure that IT, marketing, innovation, our CIO and the CEO, everyone was on the same page about how this needed to come together and make it as usable and institution-wide as it could be. So Caitlin's going to talk about how we got from this green light actually after 2 years and what we're doing now in our implementation and how we're going to build it in a balanced way.
Yeah, thanks, Kelsey. So like Kelsey mentioned, we are going to walk through some of our experiences in the trenches right now as we're implementing the CDP for healthcare, but also a little background. This is going to be my third end-to-end CDP implementation, so a little bit about what I'm going to walk you through is my experience working through those projects previously. One was with an oil and gas software company, and the other was with a financial technology company. So if you're interested about insight for those particular industries, come and find me afterwards. But the biggest tip that I could provide someone who's about to go into a CDP implementation or a marketing data project, or is about to revamp their current implementation is you don't need to boil the ocean. It's been said many different times, many different ways today throughout the course of the presentations, but it's really true. You don't need to boil the ocean. These projects are extremely complex. What you're trying to do across your organizations is extremely complex. And it's not always about the technology piece. It really, truly is about the people behind it. And when you think about just breaking down data silos, I mean, it's not like somebody at your company was like, oh, I'm going to take all of our data, I'm going to break it up into little chunks, and then I'm going to make it as hard as possible for everyone who works there, and I'm going to tank the customer experience, right? Like, that did not happen. So there is historical context as to why the data silos exist, and when you're tackling these projects, you need to approach it with a mindfulness and an intentionality around the fact that you need to learn, and that there might be some unraveling of current business processes and the ways that people are working currently in order to achieve your goal. And so it just adds another layer of complexity there. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is just that I've done a lot of MarTech projects, implementations, and these types of projects, they really truly are the ultimate test of the left brain, right brain, right? Hopefully you caught on to these operational headwinds. There's two quote cards that are very similar, they're connected. It's the advertising, I just need the API doc so I can close this out of my current sprint. And then you've got API, I'm just trying to connect our advertising account, right? Like in many projects, that could be the same task, but most of the time it's going to be those two folks working together. You've got data engineers, you've got architects, you've got information security on one side, you've got digital marketing, content, creative strategy, sales on the other side, and you've got HR, legal, some procurement, everybody else kind of falling in between. So there's a lot of different personalities, and it's really difficult. And so again, number one tip, you don't need to boil the ocean, and my number one point of advice is that you just need to shoot for balance, and I'm going to show you a little bit about what I mean by that. So this is a visual representation of my definition of what a balanced CDP looks like. Just for sake of orientation, I'm going to walk you through this, but the strategy, technical, and success are pillars and work stream suggestions to actually make this a reality, but I'm going to talk about it later. Right now, I just want to walk you through the elements that are in the circles, and we're going to go through it like how you would read a clock, and it's extremely logical. I mean, when you think about it, the more and or the higher quality integrations you have, depending on your business, the better your central data set is going to be, right? The more quality it's going to be. The more quality your central data set is, the more detailed and relevant your profiles are going to become. The more relevant details you have about a person and the more profiles that you have, the more options that you're going to have in terms of a segmentation engine to combine those profiles together to achieve business value or to execute on your use cases. And the better segmentation engine that you have running, the better your marketing or your end users are going to be able to create higher quality audiences that give them a better view into your key personas, ICPs, basically just whoever is the reason why you're doing everything every day as a company, you know, the reason why you exist. You're going to have better insight into their journey. You're going to better be able to plan how you can optimize their journey and their experience. And then your digital activation is going to be better, more collaborative, and it's going to be more successful in terms of driving, you know, improved campaign performance, improving customer experience, all the good KPI examples that other folks have mentioned in their experiences in previous sessions. So I want to pause there though, because there's two flywheel effects that I also want to highlight. I feel like most of the time we talk about the integration to this digital activation piece and then it kind of stops. And I'll be transparent in the fact that I have previously overlooked the adoption and growth and this like whole flywheel concept potential previously, and I won't do it again. And you know, especially at MD Anderson, but with any MarTech project, honestly. But the first flywheel is that the digital activation, the better your campaigns are performing. So all those KPIs that you're saying, you know, you are shooting for, improved click-through rate, improved conversion rate. What happens when somebody clicks through an ad? They land on your digital property, most likely. What happens when somebody converts? It's either they download a piece of content, or they fill out a demo form, or they make a purchase. Every time anyone engages with your brand, that is in turn giving you more data points, more insight into that person, and feeding your central data set, which creates that flywheel effect. So not only are you driving business value, but every time you improve campaign performance, you're generating more data collection, more quality data collection to feed this wheel. Now, the adoption and growth piece, I hinted on that a little bit ago, but I think this is really important because the more successful you are with the digital activation piece, people are going to take notice across your organization, right? Hopefully, if they're paying attention. And people do not engage with just one department in your company, right? Like in order to achieve an optimized customer experience and do what you're wanting to do, you have to touch on many different departments, many different areas, and many different parts of the customer life cycle. And so by driving adoption and growth and socializing what you're doing internally, that will unlock new potential for more integrations that can help supercharge this thing in a way that's really powerful. And a quick example, use case of that is, say you're a SaaS software company and you've got a customer marketing team and a field marketing team. And the CDP was brought on to help the field marketing team. And then they're really successful, their digital activations are going great, they're improving campaign performance, and the customer marketing team is like, hey, I want to get in on that. We're about to run a low usage product re-engagement campaign. We have this product analytics tool that we have over here in this silo, and we'd love to be able to connect that back to what's going on the website. All of a sudden, you've got another integration, right? You can hook up Pendo, whatever they're using, and that is just going to feed this cycle, right? So it's really powerful when you think about it that way, and it really helps to kind of bring everything together. So another thing I want to call out here is the concept of how you can feel and know that your implementation is balanced, and then when it's out of whack a little bit, you can feel it. So when it's in balance, this flow should flow. Your lives should be made easier. When you talk to the marketing team or whoever is using this, you should say, hey, have you enjoyed working with the CDP? How have you been able to utilize it? And they say, it's great, it's making my life easier. You shouldn't have to feel the need to go and defend your investment at every month and every single, board meeting or executive leadership meeting, like, is this thing really working? It should just be underpinning everything you do and helping you do things quicker. That's how you have a good insight into the fact that all of these elements are pretty balanced for your organization. When it's out of balance, you will know that as well, and you'll feel it. And some examples of how you can feel it is maybe you have a wonderful technical implementation, so everything in the Navy bubbles, but your marketing team is not really using it for campaigns, and you get the feedback that it's too complicated, or like we're just not there yet. Yes, you can do personalization on the website, but we don't have a content marketer, like we don't have the content yet to do that, right? So maybe you focused a little bit too much at that given point in time on technical, or you need to boost the adoption and growth a little bit more. Or say you focus too much on the digital activation piece for one specific set of use cases, and you had maybe somebody come in and help you, and the technical help that you had is now gone, and you're trying to do something else. So this is working great, our use cases are awesome. Now we want to do more. You kind of look at everything in the Navy side, the integrations, adding to the data model, all those different considerations, and you're like, ooh, whoa, maybe you didn't set the technical foundation the way that you needed to in order to do more than just that initial digital activation that you had planned. So, and then one of my favorite ones to call out is the adoption and growth piece. Is a good way to know that that's out of whack is, again, defending. You feel the need to defend it every time budget review cycles come around, or you get word that somebody in your organization is trying to do the same thing, right? And you're like, hey, wait, I've got this over here. Like, we're already working towards that. We don't need to do it over here. That might be a good indication that you need to focus a little bit more on the adoption and growth and socializing it across your business. So. Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit more about how to make this a reality. So the three work streams. The first one that we're going to walk through is platform strategy. And Platform strategy is platform itself, it's a very intentional way of phrasing it, is platform strategy. It's not your marketing strategy, it's not your corporate strategy. You need to have a strategy for how you're going to use the platform. Treat it like a product. The vision and mission statement, have a vision and mission statement. And one thing that I would say here is don't think too small. And if you find yourself like trying to support a marketing strategy or a sales strategy and you don't have one yourself, that could be an indicator that you're thinking too small, because what you want to do is make sure that you're setting the stage for that value long term in 3-5 years potentially. And so by just supporting another team's strategy or like one specific strategy that could change, you might be, setting yourself up for some blockers and challenges in a few years, moving forward. So that's my number one advice there. Governance, I have governance in strategy because I think that we've talked a lot about governance today. It can mean a lot of different things, but I think that governance deserves a place in strategy because it's just as important to decide what you're not going to do with the platform as it is to decide what you are going to do with the platform. Get it out of the way. It deserves a place in strategy. For healthcare, we're not going to do anything that would compromise our ethical commitment to our patients and protecting their data, right? Like that is something that is going to be mission critical as part of our implementation, and it's the non-negotiables, right? So set that at the forefront. Audience strategy, first off, have an audience strategy. Try to productize your audience strategy. Make sure that you've got audiences in your data platform that reflect your key personas, right? A CDP that doesn't have an audience or audience library that reflects your key personas or your key accounts is not going to ever live up to its full potential, honestly. Like that's the reason why you're doing it. So make sure that you've got audiences that reflect the who behind what you're trying to do. Also, another just tip here is that you can create audience types, categories. So I'll walk you through, like at MD Anderson, we're going to have always on audiences. We're going to have customer audiences. We're going to have donor audiences. We're going to have ad hoc ones. You can create a taxonomy, a structure, a category framework, and it'll really help it click across your organization. Like, wow, this is not just a CDP with a bunch of data that I can segment. This is a platform that houses all of our persona audiences that I can use whenever I need to, right? It sounds a lot better. And then a clear MVP and making sure you have a platform roadmap. Again, you can't boil the ocean. Make sure that your MVP is really clear. And then anything else that you're not reasonably able to achieve an MVP, have a roadmap for that. So that way, whenever you get to the end of it, if you're not able to do personalization in 2 months, you can say, and like we weren't able to do it because we had XYZ constraints, but here is our plan and our roadmap in order to achieve it, and here's what we're going to do with what we have right now. We think we're building a good foundation. So having a clear MVP and a roadmap is also a really good way to structure it. The second pillar and work stream is around technical enablement, and all the technical folks are probably going to hopefully clap or cheer in your minds, but I think that the most important thing is architecture. You have to place importance on architecture in some capacity, if it's drawing out the data flow on a whiteboard or shooting for a multi-layer actual architecture diagram and document and process. That can be make it or break it for you. System architecture and data architecture, all of it. Just make sure that you have some focus on architecture, and if you aren't talking about architecture in relation to your data platform implementation, then that's something that I would definitely bring up to the folks who are helping you with that and tell them that you want some type of focus and structure around architecture. Data model, that is the blueprint of your central data set, right? That's going to be the map. Treat it as such. It's super valuable. Make sure that the naming is clear. Make sure that you don't have too many attributes. Make sure that you protect it. Make sure that it's something that you have a data dictionary or somewhere where people can see what it looks like, right? And then always just keep the mindset of it's a lot easier to add than it is to take away. So just don't try to do too much from the get-go. And then also, I'm going to go ahead and speed it up for the sake of time, but performance and security, again, just be mindful of performance. These platforms are extremely powerful, but if you're wanting to have 100 audiences and you're wanting to scale up to 10,000 or something, just make sure that you check it, make sure that you test, make sure that you keep that in mind, that it is an engine and that you run through and ensure that everything's firing the way that you need it to for what you're trying to do long term. And then user experience, that's really just hitting on the fact of make sure everything that's in your platform is named in a way that is really straightforward and clear and makes sense, because you want to have as few roadblocks to using this thing as possible, right? So again, naming around what is the attribute name, what's the badge name, what are the audiences named. Also, audiences, when they're activated to advertising platforms, most of the time the audience name itself is going to be how it appears for the folks that are actually working on the ad platform side. So you want to make sure you don't have to play telephone between the two groups of folks if you ever get in that situation, so, or if that's part of what you're trying to do. And then the last thing is stakeholder success. So clear communication, have a success tracking plan, have a focus on training, have a focus on adoption, and documentation. I use the Tealium help docs weekly, if not daily, right? And I do for a lot of our MarTech tools. I know my way around. That's the first thing I do whenever I'm working with a new platform. You try to recreate that, because the folks that are going to be interested in learning about what you're doing, they might have questions the same way you do whenever you're going to, vendor documentation for help in learning centers and such. So try to recreate that motion and make sure that you have documentation training available to your stakeholders and to just anyone across the organization, right? Another good tip is just to have like regular lunch and learn sessions, have a data platform 101, advertise it, have whoever's interested come and listen in, and you'll be amazed at how many people are actually interested or how many use cases you can unlock just by opening up a standing meeting like that. So that's my tip there. And then just to close this out, here are some, this slide's pretty busy, but here are some actual examples of tactics that we're gonna use at MD Anderson to make this a reality. So I have this concept of requirement workbooks. This is everything that was in those first two pillars coming together, and it's in an Excel sheet. You can break it up into a couple depending on how large your project, but it's clear templatized documentation, right? Like, if you are doing multiple projects, the folks that are working with you and the vendors that you might be working with, it's really clear and easy for them to to be on the same page and to understand exactly what you're trying to do, and it looks really clean and polished. That it makes a difference. And then also, so these requirement workbooks, these are tabs in an Excel doc, but you can notice that the strategic naming of library. So we're adding our requirements to these docs, but this will become our documentation. This will become our living audience library. This will become our data library, our use case library, right? So they're not just going to stop once we're done with the platform implementation. It's going to be living. The other thing is, a roadmap. I mentioned that, but I want to call out, we have it structured by sources, destinations, platform features and adoption, and then use cases, because there's a couple different ways to do it, right? This is what I found works really well, because breaking out sources and destinations allows you to plan use case activation according to when those integration projects will be done. So it's really helpful, again, working with marketing teams and tech teams across your organization to get this stuff done. It helps kind of give both groups an idea of timing and helps them plan. And then SharePoint Resource Hub, this has probably been my #1 saving grace. You will always get so many questions, right? And we have access to SharePoint, so we have Office 365. A lot of companies do. If you don't, there's always Confluence pages. But again, treating it like a product, this is our landing page. This is where all the documentation is going to live. This is where all of the quick links are. We have all of our Outlook, like lunch and learn sessions I mentioned. The events are right there. There's so many tools that you can use to help make this, a true focal point in your organization. And to kind of just, emphasize what Saul and others were saying today is it's the people aspect. Like, these are the small things that are the make it or break it. You can figure out the technical piece. There's, a lot of smart people in this room, and there's a lot of great things going on in our industry right now. But these are the make it or break it things, and so placing a focus on that is really important. And it helps other people get involved too across your organization. And at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do, because that's what ultimately will make the customer experience better. So if you have any questions or you want to dig into any of these things in more detail, I'm happy to walk through it. Otherwise, thank you.